Hey there, what we're going to do now is talk a little bit about the major scale. Now, the major scale is an incredibly important scale, and you need to understand the major scale inside and out in order to understand a lot of music theory. So let's just talk a little bit about how we would work out the notes of a major scale. So if we use C as an example, if we find a C note out on our guitar, so if we go on the B string at the first fret, to play the next note of the major scale I need to go up a whole step, and then to find the third note of the scale I need to go up another whole step, and then to go from the third to the fourth note of the major scale I need to go up a half step, one fret, and then I need to go up a whole step, and then I need to go up a whole step, and I need to go up another whole step, and then finally I need to go up a half step. And what that does is it takes us back to C. So we start on the first fret with C, and we end on the 13th fret with C. Now the interesting thing is, if you follow that whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, if you start from C, that will give you no sharps and flats. So if we go C, whole step up from there gives us D, whole step up from there gives us E, half step up from there gives us F, whole step up from there gives us G, whole step up from there gives us A, whole step up from there gives us B, and a half step up from there gives us C. Now I should mention here that I'm demonstrating the major scale on a single string just to make it easier to understand. It's really important to realize that once you've worked out the notes of a major scale, you can play those notes anywhere on the fretboard, anywhere on any string, any note order. As long as you stick to those 7 notes, it's a major scale. So in this example, if I play notes like this, I'm not trying to make it sound musical, it's just some random notes that only use notes from the C major scale. So I know I'm stressing it, but a lot of people think that you have to always play scales from the first note to the last note, sort of up and down. And for technical exercises, yeah, it's a good idea to do that, but when you're making music, the scale is really just a collection of notes that have a certain sound. Now I should point out here that the C major scale is the only one that has no sharps or flats. Every other major scale will either have sharps or it will have flats. So I'll give you a couple of examples. If we start from an F note, say the first fret on the thinnest string, what we do to create the notes of the F major scale is we follow that pattern. So we go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So if we go up a whole step, that gives us G. If we go up a second whole step, that gives us A. And now we go up a half step, and that gives us, you might be thinking, A sharp. Well, in this case, you'd actually be wrong, because one of the interesting things about the musical alphabet is one of the interesting things about the major scale is it has to contain every letter of the musical alphabet. So if we've just done F, G, A, you know that the next note has to be some kind of a B note. So in this case, we'll be playing the 6th fret, which is a B flat. And then we go back to the whole step. So we go up a whole step to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, and finally a half step to F. So that gives us F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. And the thing you'll notice that even though there's a flat in there, we're still using every single letter of the musical alphabet. It's critical to remember that. Now if we look at an example of a major scale that has a sharp in it, we could say start from a G note. So we'll go G, upper whole step to A, upper whole step to B, upper half step to C, upper whole step to D, upper whole step to E, and then we go upper whole step to F sharp and upper whole step to G. And like the previous example of F major, this F sharp note here we have to call F sharp because if I called it a G flat, it means there's two kind of G notes in that scale, and for the major scale that's not possible. So to kind of recap, the major scale always has the same structure no matter what key you're in. So it's always whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Those are the distances between the notes of the scale, and that never changes no matter what key. So if I chose a really, really weird key like G flat, you know, it's easy. We find a G flat, go up whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Never changes. Another sort of important thing to realize is that the half steps of the major scale lie between the 3 and the 4 and the 7 and the 1 upper octave. So if we go back to the C major scale, so this is the first note, second note, third note. So notice the half step between notes 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the half step between the 7 and the 1. Now let's go back to that G flat major and actually work out the note names. And this brings up a somewhat annoying thing about music theory. You'll see what I mean in a second. So let's find the G flat note. We'll do it on the low E string. So we've got G flat, and then we go up 2 frets to A flat. And remember, we can't call it G sharp because we've already got a G flat. And I guess another good way of remembering it is you'll never find a major scale that has sharps and flats in it. So if you say G flat, G sharp, you've already got sharps and flats. You know, there's either major scales that have flats or there's major scales that have sharps. There's no such thing as a major scale that has both. So we'll go G flat, whole step up to A flat, whole step up to B flat, and then a half step. And this is an interesting one. This is actually the 7th fret on the low E string, and if you know your notes on your fretboard, you've probably learnt that note as being a B note. Now unfortunately we can't call it a B note in this context because we've already got a B flat. So what we have to do, unfortunately, is think of this B note as a C flat. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because if C is at the 8th fret, what would we have to do to that C note to make it 1 fret lower? We would have to flatten it. So the C becomes a C flat. So we've got G flat, A flat, B flat, C flat. Yeah, I know it's annoying, but it's just one of those things about the major scale is you will come across these weird notes. So we've just done the half step, we've got the C flat, we go up 2 frets to D flat, we go up 2 frets to E flat, up 2 frets to F, and then finally to finish off the scale we go up 1 fret to G flat.